watching and listening to Conscious Evolution Media, shifting global consciousness at consciousevolutionmedia.com.
Are you in the entertainment industry? If you answered yes and you want to promote yourself, your passion, and profession, check out Creative Independent Artists magazines at CIAartists.com, endorsed by Kids Talk Foundation worldwide. Today's podcast is brought to you by Kids Talk Foundation, a global nonprofit organization providing youth advocacy, television programming, and training services in the United States, along with comprehensive medical and educational services for the developing world, most recently in Kenya, Africa, where Kids Talk Foundation provides a feeding program, medical care, and educational services to over 1,300 young people each day. Please help our youth and place your donation. Go to www.kidstalk.org.
Welcome to the Mind, Body, and Soul Show on Real Coaching Radio Network. How would you like to attempt to demystify with us the realms of the mind, body, and soul to bring you a more holistic and balanced way of living? Healthier in all realms of the psyche, the spirit, and the body. Here is your host and executive producer, Coach Steve Toth.
Welcome to the Mind, Body, and Soul Show. I'm your host, Coach Steve Toth, and also the founder of Conscious Evolution Media. And we welcome you to the Mind, Body, and Soul Show on this beautiful Thursday afternoon with our guest, who I'm very happy to announce, Dr. Rosie Kuhn. She is an author, a coach. I would say she is probably a transformational and leadership coach, is what I've got by getting connected with her on her websites. And of course, we're going to start the show the same way we always do, which is I'm going to ask Rosie, if I took away all those titles like author, a coach, and any other title that anybody has ever called you, what's left? Who is really Rosie Kuhn?
The way I would answer that is to say that Rosie is a being of wisdom, delight, love, connection, engagement, playfulness, and that being is here to support and empower people to love their life. I'll put it that way.
Wow.
In a nutshell.
Fantastic. Yeah, that you just described our network.
All right.
Stand for. It's interesting how this works in terms of energetically. We attract all the right people, and this is proof. Excellent. So Rosie is joining us somewhere from the Pacific Northwest, from an island. Of course, I did live in Portland, but I'm not familiar. You're in Washington State, right?
I'm in Washington State on beautiful Orcas Island, which is part of the San Juan Island group.
Fantastic.
So I'm just minutes away, literally, from the Canadian border. And so it's way up there, but I'm about 60 miles north of Seattle. So that would be the way the crow flies.
Oh, okay, great. Fantastic.
Yeah.
You're also coming close to Denver. You're coming to Longmont, which is just a hop away.
Yes.
From where the studio is. So maybe we can join up. This is the end of February. If it could work out, I would love to have you on our cable TV show, which is called Living Consciously. You are perfectly cut out for it.
Excellent. I would love that.
So we'll see what we can do. All right, but getting into the show, I love what you do, and I want to start with enlightened leadership. And of course, most of us know and aware that the leadership and the leadership style that we are all used to, and that we have all been taught, is top down. This is what corporate America is. This is what government is. This is what basically every entity, at least in this country, and I would say most of the world, where there's somebody at the top. It's a pyramid system. There's a president, and then everything comes underneath that, and we all know how it works. So what's the alternative to this style of leadership? Because I venture to say that enlightened leadership is not necessarily that.
That's correct. It can be if you've got great thought leaders in those positions, but essentially it's not the way it is.
It's very hard to implement in
Pardon
this
me?
existing. It's very hard to implement in the pyramid.
That's right.
Yeah.
In the paradigm shift that I believe that we're in the transitioning into, in this paradigm shift, anyone in an organization, any member, any employee, any employer can be, in a sense, leading based on their presence and how they presence themselves in an organization. In a sense, when you ask the question, Steve, who is Rosie without all of these accoutrements of identity, there's an essential nature that shows up. What shows up when I show up? What qualities enter the room? And my job as an individual, as a coach who cultivates enlightened leaders, is to have those leaders come to their position, to their jobs, to their workplace, the environment, from their essential nature. And when they're leading from their essential nature, vibrationally, we'll say vibrationally, they're shifting the environment. So,
okay. All right. So the good news is, Rosie, is that we are being featured on Block TV, and that means that anybody that comes to Block TV, which is one of the networks that we syndicate our shows to, that means anybody that comes to that network will be watching us, hopefully for the entire hour, if we make it worthwhile. So let's do that.
Yes. So, all right.
So this, I mean, I love the idea, and it's not just an idea. Enlightenment is not an idea. I mean, it was probably at some point, but why don't we make that a little bit more clear for our viewers? What is your understanding of what enlightenment is? Okay.
So for me, number one, any coach or anyone who's doing work, no matter what we're doing, we all have a theory or a philosophy from which we build our reality, and that's from which we do our work. So number one for me, we are all energy. We're all energy. We are eternal essences of the universe. And the universe, as I believe it to be, is a conscious universe. And that it's the consciousness in a sense of enlightenment. It is light, it is love, it is consciousness. So as an eternal, essential energy being that I am, I choose to have come into human form. So I'm already that enlightened energy here, present now. And so are you.
There's not a place to get to.
There's no place to get to. So that's right. There's nowhere to go. There's no place to get to.
Wherever we go, there we are.
That's right.
Who said that, by the way? Who did we credit?
I don't know. I said it. No.
Okay.
A lot of people have said it. So when I'm working with my clients, I'm already knowing. I already come to my sessions with my clients, whether they're executives. I work with CEOs and COOs and all over the world. And I come in seeing that they are already these enlightened leaders. And my job is to help them see it and help them experience, in a sense, the thought leadership, that what happens almost automatic when they come into this essential nature. They don't have to think of themselves as enlightened beings. They just have to experience the sense of who shows up when they are in their most essential place without those identities and those hierarchical things. And I can ask the client, for instance, I work with a client who's came in as a COO to his company and said, I want to create a culture here. And it's like, who does he have to be? Who is he in a being that can do that? And he comes up. This is a CEO in San Francisco that comes up with words like magic, inspiration, intuitive, connection, love, appreciation, delight, all these words that you go, wait a second, what does that have to do with leadership? But when he shows up in that presence of that, things happen in the organization that shift and become more of the culture that he's wanting to create. So
yeah, very good. So I want to go a little bit deeper than that.
Okay.
So when you described this, so you said, and I probably won't succeed quoting you exactly, but that's okay. You said something about I need to help them, or I am going to help them when you work with them, to help them see it. And what you want to help them to see is that they are already enlightened. So if you need to help them to see it, how come that they don't see it? What happened?
I started out saying that we're these energy beings that decide to come into human form. And in human form we say, whoopee, we're going to have fun. It's like being in Disneyland. We're going to go have a lot of fun. And so we bring our fun and our inspiration and our enthusiasm, but we run into something that's scary, that we weren't anticipating in our human experience. And then we start thinking, well, what does this mean? What is this about? And we start to create fear. We start to have an experience because we don't understand it. We start to create strategies like, how do I think about this? What does this mean? Does this provide security or stability? Am I at risk?
And who's the one that's thinking this?
All of us. You,
no, but
me.
Within, let's just speak about just one of us.
Okay.
Okay, so
let's talk about
since
you.
I know. Oh, okay. I was gonna have you talk about you, but that's fine.
I'll talk about me.
I'm game. No, I'm game.
Okay.
Let's talk about me. So, I would say when you are asking me the question of who is this person that's thinking these things, I mean, who's the one that's recognizing fear and who's the one that's thinking and strategizing? I would say, for me, that would be my mind and my ego.
Okay.
Because yeah, go ahead.
I tend to, I have a model, and I don't have it with me to show you, but it's basically if you took a target, like a shooting target, you've got a bullseye, and then you've got these concentric rings. So I don't think in terms, with my clients especially, I don't work in terms of the ego, because it becomes something that works, we think about it in terms of it works against us. And I truly see that there's a part of you that actually is the thinker, let's say the mind or the thinker, that is constantly empowering you to make choices that will support what you want and have you avoid or ignore what you don't want.
Yeah, so I get that.
I
get that. I don't believe that the ego is the bad guy.
Okay.
The ego is actually the good guy because he's here to protect us.
Okay.
To make sure that we survive this human experience that you were describing at the beginning of the show, moment to moment. His responsibility is make sure that we stay alive.
Okay.
Okay, I get that.
Okay.
However, I think what happened in the process is that as we have grown up, I'm actually going to have, I'm going to be witnessing this experience again, the 7th time, because I'm going to have my 7th grandchild.
Oh boy.
Any day. Okay. And I get to see again the magic that occurs when a new human being comes into this world.
Yes.
And they are so pure, and they don't have any of this garbage, which my newest grandson is going to go through, like all human beings go through, and their mind is going to be a sponge. For the next 6 to 7 years, they're going to take everything that they're experiencing, take it in, and think it's real.
And before that, though, they come through, they have a birth experience That starts
Yes.
from the, from inception
Yes.
or before. And
Yes.
when there's a contraction, their blissful home now becomes a violent place. Things are happening that there's no thinking about. It just becomes a trauma on like what's happening around me. This is no longer a safe place. And then they have to squeeze themselves. They have to figure out how to get themselves out and into this reality, which is not necessarily a safe place for them yet. They don't know where they are. So all of that is they've already been informed by this traumatic experience and surviving it. And so that is even, their body already is already decided things. Their little computer is already hardwired in some ways. And so
and they have the DNA to access information from their parents and their grandparents and many histories before.
Yes.
So as we say that this human being that comes into our reality, we think that it's a very pure human being, and yes, it is, but it already comes with a lot of stuff like you described.
That's right. That's right.
And then we teach them a whole bunch more stuff for about 6-7 years.
Yes.
And in that 6-7 years, our minds are so full of information, trillions of bits of information and experiences, that I believe our ego then can run amok with.
Sure. Well, here's the question, though. You and I are, let's say, about the same age-ish, and yet we've
Speak
learned.
For yourself.
We both have a lot of information from going through school in the United States, and you were in Hungary. But you chose to. The way I put it is, how did you choose what you chose to have the circumstances show up the way yours do? And each one of us is choosing to choose all of the billions of bits of information the way that your being works. It chose based on something that is different than what mine chose from. And so a lot of the questions that I ask a client is, how did you choose to choose so that your circumstances show up the way they do, and how do you choose so in such a way as they don't show up the way they don't, and the way that you want them to?
That's right. Yeah. So I can tell you how I did mine.
Okay.
And that's the only one I'm qualified to speak about. So how I did mine is I had a very traumatic experience when I was 5 years old. And it was so traumatic and it was so hurtful that I didn't think I was going to live through it. Okay. So at the time when I was 5, I really didn't know about a lot of things, concepts like that this is somebody else's fault. There's a whole bunch of stuff. I didn't know that my mother and my father were not really God, because until then I believed that they could do no wrong, and they looked like to me, the highest human beings on the planet. My goodness, they are my parents.
Sure.
And they want the best for me. So until this hurt happened, since I couldn't, as human beings these days and always, we are so easily pointing the finger at somebody else. It's their fault why we are feeling the way we're feeling, or why whatever is happening is happening. It's not me, it's them. I didn't know how to do that. So I needed to solve this trauma for myself. And what I did is I said, the reason why this is happening, because I must be a nobody.
Right. Beautiful.
So since I am a nobody, okay, that's the only way I could explain the experience.
Yeah.
So I took it on for myself.
Yeah.
Like, this is my fault. And I must be a nobody. Therefore, from this moment, and this is where beliefs come from, and this is how, and mine was very powerful, just like other people's beliefs are very powerful. So I started to live my life from that moment on to prove to the world and to myself that I'm not a nobody.
Yeah.
And anytime somebody activated me, or I allowed them to activate me, that they made me feel like I was a nobody, I would go crazy.
Yes.
Because I did not want anybody to know that I really truly believed that I was a nobody.
Yes.
All I wanted to do is run around in the world gathering experiences and evidence that I am somebody.
Excellent.
And that is how I saw the world.
All right.
For most of my life until 10 years ago. And that's when I think what I believe the paradigm shift that you're referring to occurred for me. So what about you? Would you be willing to share yours?
Well, before I share, so is there a part, I'm happy to, but
okay.
Are you still, you talked about the paradigm shift 10 years ago. Are you still operating, is that belief in there still that you are a nobody? Even though you can say, yes, I'm a cultivated, enlightened being, is there an operating system still based on I'm a nobody?
I believe that what I'm doing is I'm managing it really well. It's still there.
Okay.
However, I don't get activated, and I really truly gave it up. Like I basically said, I now get that only just a part of me that's a nobody, and I'm willing to accept that part of me.
Okay.
Like I'm not going to fight it anymore. I'm not going to resist it anymore. I can actually love it. I can love that part of me.
Yes.
That's a nobody.
Yes.
And that's when shift occurred.
Great.
For me.
Excellent. And to take it, the next step is to come to that place of experiencing yourself as this enlightened energy being, where that being had an experience of being a nobody, but in fact it was just an experience where you made that choice and you can see it as that. Does that make sense? In a sense that...
Oh yeah, absolutely. More specifically, from my experience, the fact that I felt like a nobody was only true for that moment and time and space when it occurred.
That's right.
The error that I have made, and a lot of humans make this error, is I decided, or better word, I chose it and made it about my life.
Yes. I
expanded it and said, the way from this moment on I'm going to see the world is from that place.
That's right. It totally makes sense, doesn't it? It's a very empowering...
Totally.
And this is where, in a sense, we empower ourselves as 5 years old to make sense of our reality by saying, it must be me, I'm the nobody here, and so I have to create a reality so that nobody finds out and that I can survive in this world. So how brilliant is that for a 5-year-old?
It's very brilliant.
Create? It's brilliant.
It's very brilliant. It's very brilliant. So guess what? What do you have a PhD in, Rosie?
I have a PhD in transpersonal psychology.
Well, I have a PhD in how to be somebody.
Excellent.
And it took me 40 years to perfect it.
Terrific. Terrific. And at the same time, it's who are you beneath that somebody that you've perfected, in a sense that my PhD was just the beginning of the undoing of me, as in terms of the author, the coach, the brilliant person, the whatever it is, all those identities. My studies was the undoing of me, because I had to let go of all of these identities that I said I was, but it was crushing, in a sense, the essence of myself. So that's what a lot of people in the world, and especially in terms of work and employment, is we have an identity we're trying to achieve. We're 40 or 50 or 60 or 30, whatever that is. It says, here's what I'm supposed to be. Here's what I'm supposed to be making. Here's what I'm supposed to be my life is supposed to look like. And if it doesn't, much like you, we say that there's something wrong with me, something wrong with it or them. And we have to get underneath that to say, no, that's not true. But that's the way our system works. But as a coach for me in working towards transformation and enlightenment, it's like, let's go deeper with that so that you get that that's just not, that's something, but it's not everything.
Yes, and that's absolutely right on. So what I really learned about that is that we, including myself, we all have a tendency to look outside of us. And everything that you're talking about, including enlightened leadership, is it's an inside job.
That's right.
It's not an external job. And until we are ready, and that's what's also beautiful, is that we go on to this journey. So the things that I had to do because of what I made choices about was absolutely perfect, designed by
by you,
by me.
Yes.
And I'm part of the one that designed the big thing.
Yes.
I'm part of that.
Yes.
So it's perfectly designed to get me to where I am today.
That's right.
Like we have to look at it so that there is nothing wrong with the experiences that we had.
That's right.
And believe me, I've chosen to learn this a little bit harder than the way you have. At least you have a PhD to show for undoing you. I picked a couple of addictions to teach me to undo me.
Beautiful. We all, the cool thing is each of us pick something, and even if it's a manager's job or a
and it's good news, Rosie. It's good news.
It's good news. Totally. If we can get, like, you're exactly where you need to be, and you, me, we're all exactly where we need to be to get the learning, and it's the learning opportunity that we're here in this moment having that allows us to grow and expand and become more of who we already are in a sense of enlightenment, but also in terms of the delight and playfulness and the innocence and the creative nature that we bring to the world.
Yeah. So when I see a alcoholic, I no longer judge them because they're an alcoholic and what a bad person they are.
Mm-hmm.
I actually smile and go, wow, here is another beautiful human being on their journey.
Yes.
And he's just learning.
Yes.
He's in school. Fantastic. Go, keep drinking.
Yes.
Sooner or later, you're going to get to a place where you can't stand yourself anymore.
Yes.
And when you get there, I think that's when we are ready to go inside.
Yes.
Now, some people are smarter than that and ready to change or transform before they have to destroy themselves. Do you think that's happening more and more these days?
I think that our circumstances, whether they're environmental or financial, like hurricanes, all kinds of economic, those circumstances are the 2x4 against the head. That's creating the circumstances where people have to say, look, I just lost my house and everything in it. Where's the value? What's this about for me? And
what's
how
the
to
lesson?
really question. And so whether it's they've lost their job or lost their home or lost their limbs, let's say in the war, whatever it is that there's we're all facing something that has us either go into denial and use some sort of addictive something to avoid that awareness, or we say, okay, I surrender, and I'm open to how to what's the next thing. And I think that because of the conscious energy that's coming through, I believe that there's more of us who are informing people, hey, here's the wave of the future. Here's the wave of enlightenment. Here's the wave of transformation that you're already on. And how can we support you? How can you support yourself and empower yourself to make the choices?
Yeah, fantastic. So people don't have to suffer unless they choose it powerfully.
Well, I think that part of it, the suffering is in the I call it a spiritual immersion process. There's a spiritual emergence process and a spiritual emergency process when our spirit self is like it's doing something that makes you feel crazy. And a lot of us, there's a spiritual emergence process that's happening, and we think we're crazy. We think that there's something wrong, so we go get some pharmaceuticals from our doctors or something, so we don't feel that. But what's being asked of us, I believe, Steve, is that what's being asked of us is to feel the humanness, to have the actual human experience we came to have. And so we interpret having a human experience of despair or grief as suffering. And that's what creates the suffering, is the interpretation of that. And certainly it may be painful, and we interpret that as bad or hurtful or not good. And so it's the suffering is in the interpretations we have of what we came here to do originally, which was to have the experience of being human. And so many of us are trying to ignore and deny that experience. But when we can embrace it, and that we're required or we're requested through accidents, illnesses, traumas, losses, we're asked to experience the humanness. But that's what we came here to experience. Does that make sense? So the suffering. Suffering is when we say, that's bad, I shouldn't be feeling that, or it should be over with, or I should be past that.
No. Actually, the suffering, I believe, comes from the resistance and the amount of resistance of what's so right now.
Exactly.
If it was supposed to be different right now, it would be.
Yeah.
So why is it that we just can't accept that the way things are right now are exactly the way they are?
Yes. The question then becomes, what's creating the resistance? What's the thought process? How am I thinking, or what am I choosing that has this be a resistance? And so it's the thought behind the thought. I'm resisting. Okay. What's having you resist? What's that in service to?
And who is the one that's resisting?
Beautiful. Yeah.
Isn't it interesting that when I am in my heart, which I am right now, I can tell you that I hardly feel resistance for anything. I can accept anything. I am willing to look. I'm open and I'm willing to look.
Yeah.
Whatever there is, whatever I'm looking at or whatever I'm working on, or whoever I'm speaking with right now with you. But when I'm not in my heart and I'm disconnected from myself, and how I describe myself, the one I just did describe, when I'm connected, is really, I call it because I got to call it something, so to be able to talk about it on television. I call it my new self. So language is a funky thing, and I speak several languages, and it's a trip. I feel sad for people sometimes when they don't speak multiple languages, because they don't understand what I'm talking about.
Yes.
It's a trip.
Yeah.
And so when I say new self, what I'm talking about is the self. It's the higher self of me. It's the one that's talking to me when my intuition kicks in. When that voice tells me that, Steve, I am right now looking out for your best interest from above.
Yes.
And I know what's the right thing for you to do. And this is what you should be doing. And that's my intuition.
Yes.
And I now listen to it. I didn't used to listen to it, and I got myself into all kinds of trouble. I used to do the opposite of what my intuition said.
Yeah.
So I feel that intuition is like our sixth sense. And it's really connected to this new self, which is the one that's open and is going through this journey of being human, as a spiritual experience, and willing to grow and willing to evolve. And that's our name of our network, is Conscious Evolution Media. We're evolving. I don't believe that human beings as the way we look is gonna change much. I think this is it. I don't think it's gonna evolve much, like, you know how the fish used to come out of the ocean and then evolved into other beings.
Yeah.
I think we as human beings, we might be done with that, but what we are not done with is growing and experiencing the things that we don't even know what to ask yet.
Yes. Yes.
And that's exciting, because what we already know, that's kind of boring, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, you know, where it's like climbing Mount Everest, and there's levels. There's base camp 1, base camp 2, base camp 3 as we go up. And let's say you and I have arrived at base camp 1, and we're like, whoopee! Boy, we've got this experience. We have this sense of, I know how to do it. We've got the clarity and the language for it. We've got how we can support other people. But you and I are now about to embark, potentially, or have been, we're already on our way to taking steps to prepare for going to base camp 2. And because we are all on to the next level, right? So
yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to share this with you. What came to me right now, I'm going to share this right now.
Sure.
So what I'm feeling is I just found the female version of me in you. Because everything that you're saying, and everything that you said so far in the show, I'm 100% connected with, and I get it. It's like you and I have known each other, and probably have, for all the time, forever. We've been connected.
Yeah.
And this is the first time where we have this opportunity to actually be in front of each other's presence.
Yeah.
So thank you for being here, Rosie.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome.
It's amazing, but it's a very fascinating experience, because we are so much alike, and we've probably gone through completely different experiences, you and I, but what we have learned and the wisdom that we have is very, very similar. Make sense?
Yes.
Like, I can say something, I can explain something to you in 2 seconds or a minute, and you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And I know you do.
Yeah. And it's because we have gotten beyond our sense of identity. You know this, I know that. We've gotten to our humanness. We both have experienced and are not afraid of experiencing the humanity. You've had the experiences of a number of addictions that like wiped you out. It was your undoing, so that you could get to this place of what I call it's the universal humanness. It's the existentialism of our being. And you don't have to study many books, if any books, to actually get to this reality through the human experience, through, I got to feel this and know this from the inside out, because that's what I'm here to do. And in that process, then, we know each other, and we know other people, and we meet other people from that perspective. Like, when you're connecting to people, you connect from that place of, I know that you are this human being, having this and you feel a sense of joy for the alcoholic, because you know that this is all good. Even though it's
they
painful.
got their training wheels on.
Yeah. The skin knees. Ow, it hurts. I'm crying. It hurts. I don't want to do this. And you go, I get that. And isn't it wonderful that you're learning this? And isn't it wonderful you're facing this crisis? And
have another beer.
Yeah, have another beer. Or chocolate milk if you're a little kid. Here's a chocolate milk. So getting clear about the sense that you have an experience, more than just one, of your essential nature in human form, then you can...
Isn't that funny? Rosie, this is another thing that just came to me right now. Isn't it funny that what we want to do with people like the alcoholic is take the alcohol away, and we think that if we take the alcohol away, that's going to heal them.
That's right.
That is amazing to me, that and there's a lot of professionals out there that think that way, and they think that that's going to work.
Do you mean in terms of like banning alcohol, or what? Tell me a little more.
In terms of the way you need to shape up as an alcoholic is join, some Alcoholic Anonymous group and announce to a whole bunch of people every day that you are an alcoholic and have your identity be that.
Yes.
And from that point on, live your life in fear that you cannot go near alcohol.
Right. And the 12-step program is not about that. I mean, have you gone through the 12-step program?
I went there several times through one of my addictions, and all I wanted to do is throw up.
Yeah, okay.
So I left.
There's the programs, there's the meetings, and depending on the attitudes or the energy of the meetings, they can be very just not drink and you're going to be fine. But it doesn't heal the spirit self that is needing to be healed and needing to be acknowledged and witnessed. And so actually working the 12-step programs is like, I got to think of something bigger than me that's going to hold me, and I gotta have a faith in something beyond myself, because I'm not doing this good. I need something bigger than myself. And it takes everyone, and this is the experience I've had, in the sense that regardless of who we are, we have addictions to thought processes. We have addictions to fear processes. We have addictions to physical things. So it's not just whether I'm using buying or TV or computer or sex or alcohol as my addiction. There's an underlying something, longing, that's wanting to be addressed. And
absolutely.
It takes faith. It takes faith in a sense that I got to start trusting something beyond this to make me feel better.
Do you feel that the 12-step programs ultimately address that?
I do. I worked in Nova Scotia.
I didn't go far enough in it. I quit, so I can't say.
Yeah.
From my personal experience.
I worked in for the Nova Scotia Commission on Drug Dependency. This was in the 80s, as a therapist for recovering alcoholics and drug addicts in Nova Scotia, and it was where I got it in terms of therapy isn't going to work unless it has some sort of spiritual foundation or spiritual orientation that allows an individual to experience all of themselves, and not just the egoic, here's the right choices, here's the right strategies to live life. And so I found that in working with my clients who were recovering, I learned so much about this spirit self that I was pretty atheist at that point, but I got, my God, there's something here, they have it and I want it. I was really in need of what they had. And I was using all kinds of, I was addicted to relationships, I was addicted to love, I was addicted to things that seemed like they were okay, but in fact I was hiding out myself.
Those things were making you feel better, so those things become a drug.
That's right. That's right. I'm using that. And I was using worry, I was using anxiety. A lot of us use worry and anxiety to keep us from living our life. And the concepts and principles of the 12 steps will work for anybody who's using something to avoid their life, to avoid themselves, their humanness, because that's what we're trying to do, is not feel what we.
Yeah.
So for me, all roads lead to experiencing this humanity. A lot of a friend of mine who works in hospice, she says, Rosie, most people do their highest, their spiritual development, the most spiritual development, in the last 2 weeks of their lives.
Oh, wow. That just made me sad.
And it's because that's when they're confronted really with their humanness, more so probably than any other place. And
wow.
So I totally get it. And so my work is to empower people, or to bring about this level of engagement, this kind of conversation, so that we aren't afraid of the humanness. We actually came here to have this experience. I was talking to a client yesterday, and she said, "Rosie, my life is hell." And I go, "Great. So how do you experience that? Let's say your life is hell. This is it. Okay, great. So how do you want to do that? How do you want to be in that?" And we talked about it as if it was a ride at Disney World. It was some ride at Disney World. It's like, you're going to take that ride, and how are you going to be presencing yourself in that ride as an exploration, as a seeing what's there, seeing the textures of that hellness, and really enjoying the exploration, because you're going to be there anyway. So you can be pissed off, angry, victimized, betrayed, abandoned, or you can like go, okay, I'm here now in this circumstance. You know, Hurricane Sandy wiped out my house, my home, my job, everything. Now what? And so being in the moment is that moment of reality.
Why is this happening? There is a reason, there is a purpose. I may just not know it in this moment, but if I'm willing to be open and I'm willing to experience it, it will unfold.
That's right.
It's like I used to say, the bigger the breakdown, the bigger the breakthrough.
That's
so right. The more messy our lives are, it's good news, because the potential for breakthrough is enormous.
Whoopee! And it's easy to say that, and you know, I don't know if you've ever heard the experience of a spiritual bypass. It's like, if I know what I know, and I know a lot, then I'm good to go. But there's actually the experiencing. I have to experience it before I can actually teach it, and I could actually make a difference, because it's vibrational, it's resonance. So a lot of people will do a spiritual bypass and saying, "Oh, I know that human stuff. I know all that stuff." So they tend to try to not do that. They try not to go there. But like you're saying, that we have to have the experience. Otherwise, we don't get the coupons, or we don't get the
wisdom.
We don't get the wisdom.
Yeah, there is no wisdom in just talking, because, you know, let's face it, I know people, because I lived in Boulder for 12 years. I know people that have 3 PhDs. They can talk about just about anything for hours.
Yeah.
But guess what? They haven't figured out how to make $1 yet.
Yeah.
So all that knowledge, you know, doesn't turn into wisdom, because you can't apply it. All you can do is talk.
That's right.
And boy, do we have a lot of talkers.
We have a lot
in
of
this country, and
yeah.
And it's not backed up
by
actual experience and the willingness. You see, and this is what I primarily do on the Living Consciously cable TV show, is we show people, the viewers, what consciousness looks like and feels like by sharing our own experiences. And do you know how not easy it is to have all these quote-unquote psychologists, and I know you're one, doctors, all these professionals that have been doing this for 20 years or more, to be able to come down from the top of the mountain, because that's where they like to be.
Yeah.
Everybody likes to be there, to talk down to everybody that, you know, I really know, because I have all these PhDs and I have all this knowledge, and, you know, I've been doing this for all this time, but I'm not going to tell you, and I'm not going to let you come close to me by me sharing my own experiences, because then I would have to be vulnerable.
That's right.
And then I would have to be authentic. And why in the world would I want to know that when I am, quote-unquote, a professional?
That's right. I'm going to help you be vulnerable, but I don't want to. I don't need to be vulnerable.
No thanks.
No. And my work is, in a sense, that we take the path of vulnerability, or we take the path of invulnerability. But in even taking the path of invulnerability, at some point, you know, again, we get whacked by the universal 2x4 that goes, wow, where did that come from? You know, Hurricane Sandy, what the heck was that about? Like you said, you know, it's like, what the heck? and it's like everyone was vulnerable, and obviously you can't anticipate vulnerability because then you can make yourself invulnerable to it. So
and I have a really easy example that I think most of our viewers can relate to, and that is Oprah.
Mm-hmm.
We have watched Oprah for more than 20 years, getting really good at how to get other people to open up and how to get other people to be vulnerable, cry on her shows.
Yeah.
She has a PhD in that work.
Mm-hmm.
Does she do that herself? Oh, hell no. So, that makes, for me, Oprah to be an absolute success in her own right.
Yeah.
However, I don't see her as a human that's ready yet to be authentic and vulnerable herself. She's a media mogul. She is her whole branding became about this persona. So who Oprah is, this persona.
Yeah.
But nobody knows, not you, me, nobody knows who the real Oprah is.
Yes. And she may share that with her few intimates. But in terms of, we do this with our clients. I know I learned this when I was learning to be a therapist, when my supervisor said, Rosie, there's this thing called Pseudo Intimacy, which is, much like you said, is we do what we do to bring about an intimacy from our clients, but we don't have to be intimate. And we don't have to be vulnerable with our clients. And our clients can feel that. I think that the clients that are attracted to me are clients that are like, I want that level of realness. I want that authenticity. That's what I need in my life. That's what I want, and that's what I want to work with. And I think our clients, to whatever degree we're developing as support people, can help us grow to bring more and more of ourselves into the engaged connection in sessions to bring about a larger ability to be in our humanness as healers, coaches, therapists, doctors, and as the client too at the same time.
Yeah, right on. So, did you experience the show as 2 minutes?
It went pretty fast. I had to check my clock.
It's almost over.
I know.
So I want to make sure I want to make sure that I ask you about what information would you like to leave to our viewers, now the ones that are watching live and then the archives, about you, about your website, and I want to take the last few minutes after you do that to talk about your books. Okay.
So if people want to reach me, they can reach me at Rosie, R-O-S-I-E, at dr-rosie.com. So it's Rosie at drrosie.com. And my website is dr-rosie.com, or the other one is the Paradigm Shifts with the S.com. You can Google me, it's easy. So those are good contact information pieces. And I write blogs, and you can Google, and it's all over the place. So.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. All right, let's talk about your books. Which one do you want to talk about first?
This is the first book I've written. It is called Self-Empowerment 101, and I think it's a great book. I wrote it as I was training people to be coaches. I've trained people to be coaches for over 10 years now. And so it started out as a training manual, and it's now really basically for all the audiences of the world who are interested in really self-empowerment and seeing the concept of that. So I love this book. So that's number one. Cool. I wrote this book. This is, I don't know if you see this, it's a little bit of reflection. But this is an autobiographical. This is called The Unholy Path of a Reluctant Adventurer, and this is about me. And I wrote this when I was in the process of spiritual immersion, really deep stuff, where I had to really source the choices that I made and how those choices came about. So that's very cool. And the last two books that have just come out and are in ebook form right now, the first one's called The ABCs of Spirituality in Business. And the second one is called Dilemmas of Being in Business. And it's a great book for people in business because it can look at the dynamics, but also for coaches in business because it really distinguishes what's happening for a client when they're in these dilemmas, these choice points, and what has them choose and what has them choose differently. So those are my 4 books. So thanks for letting me talk about that.
Yeah. So when you mentioned spirituality in business, previous to what I've been doing in the last 9 years, which has been broadcasting and having this network unfold from a network that used to be about self-expression, and now it morphed into teaching the public how to become awake and how to be conscious. Thus, the Conscious Evolution Media Network. I used to work for large technology consulting firms, such as Anderson, for example. And I got fired from Anderson because back then I required my team members to meditate before we started the meeting. And that was not in the manuals of Anderson Consulting, and somebody reported me and I got fired like on the spot. So this is like 20 years later, and Anderson Consulting had over 100,000 people worldwide, and they no longer in existence. I'm still here talking about meditation and spirituality in business. Isn't that interesting?
It's great.
So at the time, of course, I was devastated, Rosie. Because I got fired, and I didn't understand why the hell did that happen. What the heck?
What the heck?
But guess what? That's an example of what we've been talking about the entire show. We may not know in the moment why something is occurring, but guess what? You can be rest assured. Everybody can be rest assured that whatever is happening in your life, it is happening for the highest and best interest of you. Even if we don't recognize it as such. So on that journey, that was a perfect thing that happened to me, because guess what? It shook me up about corporate America. And I said, oh, so this is how I'm being thanked for being in this industry for all this time. You fire me because I'm trying to do something new and different, and so I just said, whatever, I got to do something else. So isn't that cool?
It's great. And then you get to bring your highest and best contribution through your doorway into the world, into the business world, or into all the world, which is awesome.
So actually, I have never done this before, Rosie, and I want to do this right now publicly. Anderson Consulting, I know you're not in existence anymore, but all the people that used to work for them are still here. Thank you all for firing me, because without you, none of this would have happened.
It's amazing, isn't it? When we can get to that place of, I am so grateful I got fired, or I'm so grateful. But and I've heard people say this about cancers and things. I am so grateful because I found myself. I found my true self and my fullest expression of myself through this illness or through this disaster. I am so grateful, and what a delight.
There was one other thing I wanted to talk about, and guess what? We don't have time because I get another show starting here in just a few minutes.
Okay.
But I'm going to throw it out there because this is maybe something we can discuss if you can be on the cable TV show, or maybe you can come back. The thing that I wanted to talk about, and this could be an entire hour, truth-based leadership. And I specifically want to talk about truth.
Great.
Because I feel that where a lot of these things go weird in life is that when we are not willing to tell the truth, not just to other people, but to ourselves.
Yep. Totally get it.
It's a huge subject.
Yes.
And I love it.
I'd be happy to join you in that one. It'd be great fun.
Okay. Rosie, you've been absolutely fantastic, and thank you for showing up in my life in a physical form. It's great to know you.
Thanks.
Thank you. You have been absolutely fantastic. I think we covered a lot of ground, and we had tons of fun.
Tons of fun. Yep.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you too. And thanks to Orcus Online for letting me have the office space here. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
All right. Bye for now.
Okay, nobody go away. We'll be back in just a few minutes with James McPartland with the Unopened Gift Show. See you guys shortly.
Bye.